pretty. Wow, you look nice.
Let me take a picture of you. Who is missing? There's somebody missing. Well,
Anybody here now?
no, Bill and somebody else. No, one more here. But who else? Bill and who else?
Say Dad is here, not.
And who else? There's somebody else. One more missing.
Who's missing?
I don't know. Kids! It's Keith. I remember.
Ollie and Tilly. How are you? On candid camera. In a way. Tilly. You have to speak louder. Renter did.
And I want to say,
Wish them lots of good luck, happiness, and celebrate many anniversaries.
Thank you.
right.
Okay. Easy, you have a few words to say, it seems like. Uncle Harry. Uncle Harry. What's the population of Grand Forks?
The population of Grand Forks, we'll have to ask your buddy what the population is. What's his name?
Chucky Bump.
Chucky, baby. How are you, Chuck?
Well, today's a very important day.
Can't hear you.
Today is a very important day. And I just want to tell Mom and Dad that we're very proud to be here. They're fantastic. We love them very much. And it's a really nice party. And it's very Hamish.
This is a surprise party?
Huh?
Did you organize this party as a surprise?
No, it's the first time we didn't organize it ourselves.
How do you feel
But we
about
have
that?
some surprises.
Okay, everybody. The dining room. Nice little do. Nice little hairdo. Underneath.
You do have to have it. What's the
Oh, that's on tape, by the way.
I think I missed it though.
Oh, did you? Oh. He said, you know, I've been married 40 years and I'm still in love with the same woman that my wife got together with. She'll kill me.
Say that again.
I would. Louder. Linda's jealous of you.
That's no yelling your mic.
You're embarrassing.
Now say that last joke again, Mel. Louder.
Yes, but I went up to Judge Sam and Duke and I said, Sam, if that's something the matter with my car, why could you fix it?
Tell a story, one of their favorite Jack and Yetta stories. I just want you to know, you got 15 minutes to think of your favorite Jack and Yetta story. When am I?
Does it have to be true?
Yes, we prefer it was true. You know,
And if you have a story just about Yetta, it's fine too.
fine too, right, sure. Another thing, I want to say, Jack mentioning that he's going to the house walk.
go home.
For 10 or 12 days to get himself into shape. Reminds me of a story. There's a very famous movie magnate by the name of Adolf Zucker. And a few years back, he was celebrating his 105th birthday. And they had an affair just like this. It wasn't with hot gold, that was cold gold. Pierogies, Mamans, Salter. And they asked Adolf Zucker, Mr. Zucker, now that you've hit 105 years old, how does it feel? And Mr. Adolf Zucker said, you know, if I knew I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of myself. And that's Jack. He wants to take good care of himself. Get gesund?
Very good.
You better believe it.
Jack, all this
We got
material,
14 minutes left now, so 14
all this
minutes. just
material
like
was
that.
left over from the Dushan affair.
Dushan,
Jack, I told Dushan he can look after the little signs, you'll look after the big signs.
listen, we don't want to discuss Dushan at this affair. We're taking away his Sheraton units because he hasn't paid the bill.
Jack, remember this after having been married 40 years. Remember one thing, the late Malcolm Flores,
Yeah.
who passed away, Avalo Sholem, who just passed away. His key thing in life was, as you get older, Jack, you gotta move faster, because there's so little time left. So remember that. I want you to move.
really say that?
Who cares? He didn't say it, Noah Whitman said it. And if I'm gonna quote Noah Whitman, I won't get elected.
Wasn't Malcolm Forbes homosexual?
Who cares? I like Lawrence Neeson, so what do you You got 12 minutes left, so remember.
Where does Elizabeth Taylor fit in?
Not now, Beverly.
Elizabeth Taylor. She went out with John Kennedy. Or was that Marilyn Monroe?
That was Marilyn Monroe.
I think he had Elizabeth Taylor too.
That was John Candy.
John Jack Kennedy. Before your time.
Got it.
You got 10 minutes left, and while you're all thinking of your favorite Jack and Yetta stories, I'm going to tell you a favorite Jack story.
Is there a dentist in this group?
Quiet, please. I'll get to you in a second.
I think I broke a tooth on the Gold Island.
Problems.
Which you always need a lot of.
Mel, I think you can take 60 minutes, never mind.
Got 9 minutes left, Joe.
You're doing fine.
Am I doing a good job? No.
He has to put on his record.
I don't know. I'm ad-libbing this.
How long have you known my parents?
They're asking hard questions.
It's a tough. A long time.
25 years. At least 25.
I'll tell you approximately. I built the Levittsheim building in 1959. Okay? And I think I came in to see you just before I started building it. But did we know each other before then?
Yeah, we did.
We did. Well, yeah, we did.
About 30 years, right?
I'll tell you another great Jack Levin story. You mentioned that building?
Yeah.
And how many years ago did you get that?
31 years ago.
All right, 31 years ago.
That's when I was 2 years younger than Shelley.
31 years ago, there was a marvelous piece of property out in St. James. 2.5 acres. 2.5 acres?
3.5.
Big pardon?
3.5.
3.5 acres. And I wanted that piece of property. I wanted to put up my building on that particular piece of land. And I went to the city of St. James and I spoke to a fellow by the name of Mr. Reed.
Alec Reed.
Right. And I said, Mr. Reed, I want to move away from Selkirk Avenue and I want to put up a shop at St. James. And this is the piece of land that I want. I want to put up a building. Mr. Reed says, you can't have that land. I said, why not? He said, that land is owned by Defer, CA Defer.
Right.
And you can't have that land, but you can have this little piece of schlock land adjoining it. I said, but I want this. He says, you can't have it. CA Defer have it. And anyway, I put up a building right next door to this marvelous piece of property. And about 1.5 years later, Jack Levitt came into my office and he said, hey, I got great news for you. I'm going to be your neighbor. I said, I don't understand how you can be my neighbor. I have Grinnell on one side and C.A. Defer have this piece of property on this side. He said, who has it? I said, C.A. Defer. He says, no, they haven't got it. I have it. I said, well, how could you? He said, I went up to Mr. Reed, the city of St. James. I said, I want this piece of land. They said, no, it belongs to C.A. Defer. And Mr. Levitt said, look, unless he builds within 3 months, it's my land. 3 months later, Jack had the land. Jack taught me a very important lesson. You have to be tenacious. You never take no for an answer. And this to me was one of the most memorable experiences of my life. And I have to tell you, that is a true story. You know it is, Jack.
But the key to that is, Mel, that what I said to them is, if you sell it to me, I'll build something.
Exactly. Exactly.
If they hang on to it, what are you going to get?
It was a marvelous example of a person being tenacious and not taking no for an answer. And all his life, this is the way he's conducted himself.
You learn from it?
I learned plenty from him. That's why I have to work so hard today. Anyway, you got 5 minutes.
Mel, why don't you give us a list of the various products you manufactured
We'll get into
in your
that
career?
later. On my 50th, we'll have commercials. No commercials today. Oh, I'm glad you asked. I have another favorite Jack Levin story that I've always loved. This, to me, is the key thing. And again, I feel I've known Jack ever since he was a kid. The classic story was, as a youngster, I always loved the relationship that Jack had with his dad, the respect, the admiration and everything else. I have never in my life seen a finer father and son relationship. And one day, Jack told me a story that I found most touching. As a youngster, he tried to help his dad as much as he could. Yet I'll get to you in a few minutes. You know, you'll get yours. As a youngster, Jack worked very closely with his dad. And he told me a story once on how, in those days, they painted signs for Wynola, Berditsky. And Berditsky couldn't
belly wash.
belly wash Wynola. And
Two-way.
And I'll never forget this story. Jack says, we used to paint the signs for the Wynola Bottling Company. And after they paint the signs of different Bell Bottling, Jack's job was to go to Mr. Berditsky to get the money for the sign. Berditsky couldn't pay. So he used to give Jack 6 or 7 cases of two-way Wynola. Now here's a kid, I don't know how old he was, 11 or 12 years old, would then take these 6 or 7 cases of Wynola and two-way to a grocery store.
No, Mrs. Feinstein.
Or to who?
Mrs. Feinstein.
Mrs. Feinstein.
On Mountain Avenue.
On Mountain, and exchange it for chickens. Now I have to tell you, right? And would you believe today he does that same thing with Jerry Drake? Takes cases of 7-Up, goes to Mrs. Feinstein. And it goes other places and trades for Gold Eye, for Roadies. Okay, you got 2 minutes. Yet I'll get to you a little later.
So who's gonna?
Diane, just think of how good I'd be if I was prepared.
I don't think Diane or the kids know those stories.
Well, I can go on. I have to tell you. We'll get to your mother a little later. But again, I've had a great deal of pleasure out of knowing your dad. I have to tell you, I look forward to picking up a pearl of wisdom. I'm just throwing you a few of them. You got 3 minutes left, Neeson. Wake up. Wait, Neeson. Neeson, I don't want you sleeping at the table. We'll pass. No, we'll pass it.
Is it longer? Oh.
I usually take the briefcase work home with me, and I take it up to the family room, and I sit on the sofa, and I watch TV at the same time. And Yenna's never there. She's sitting at the kitchen table, and she is working. And every once in a while, I say to her, "What are you doing there?" She says, "Nothing." I said, "What do you mean you're doing nothing? How can you do nothing? You have to do something." She said, "Don't worry about it. I'm keeping busy." I never got up. I never went there to see what she was doing. This goes back a year or more. Okay? Today I come home, and on the kitchen table is a stack of books. She has kept articles going back to, I guess, 1960 or earlier. She put them away, and then she organized them all and put various categories, bowling, and Ichiban, and other things. And she must have 1,000 different things in those books. She handed them to me tonight. And I said, oh my God, is this what you've been doing for that year? She says, that's right, that's what I've been doing. So,
It was a work of love, believe me.
now, if you have a chance, take a look at the monumental work that was taken over by Malenfant. He put an ad in the paper that said anybody that had their honeymoon at the Fort Garry Hotel and could produce the receipt could stay at the hotel for a night for the same amount of money as is shown on the receipt. What holiday was it we were having?
It was Rosh Hashanah,
Rosh Hashanah?
and I think Annette and Harry were there.
Were you there? Well, okay, so anyway, I pulled out this ad, and I said, yeah, we stayed at the Fort Garry, but, you know, it was 36, 37 years ago. So, forget it. I'm sure we don't have the receipt. She says, how much time can I have to find it? I said, what do you mean? She says, will you give me 3 minutes? She came up with that receipt in 3 minutes. And we had stayed there, and it cost us $8. $8.50.
Was that the tax in 19?
When was it? 1950?
What's the tax?
With or without
Yeah,
GST?
$8. And she had that receipt. We didn't take advantage of that night, but anyway, she had it. Another time, I remember this. I went to Sears and I bought a lawnmower, and I think it stayed in the garage for a year before I used it. And when I tried using it, I had trouble starting. So, very well, I guess I'm stuck with this. I don't have any receipts. I said to Yetta, well, we've got this lemon of a lawnmower, but yeah, I remember. And I guess we're stuck with it. I don't have the receipt. She said, just a minute. She pulled out the receipt. I went to Sears, got the money back. You will never in your life find anybody that's more organized than Yetta is.
That's very cute. That's very cute. Okay, who's next with the Jack or Yetta story? I'll deliver the mic.
How about a story about everybody's own personal life instead of about us? Tell us a boring story about yourself. Don't be nervous, just put the mic close to your mouth.
Okay.
That's it.
Much better?
Perfect.
Okay. Just want to say that I wish both you and Yetta and Jack the very best on your 40th anniversary. Lots of nachas from your children and your grandson. And hopefully there'll be another one soon and enjoy many, many years together. Good health.
Thank you.
Okay, now can I say
We're interested, Tilly.
It's not boring at all.
Okay. Well, did you see that tiny little picture where they're showing me that I received a dozen roses? Well, it actually happened. And two people are saying, well, is that you? No, but this was very interesting because I didn't know that I was going to be given such a big honor on this evening. I actually thought I was supposed to be cutting cake and serving it, and all of a sudden they grabbed me from the front seat and they called me up and handed me a dozen roses, and the papers and the media and everybody. It was unbelievable.
And here comes the cake again.
And here's their
This is for you.
Happy anniversary.
happy anniversary.
Everybody, get them singing. Everybody. It's your words.
Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary to you.
Tilly, you can continue. They were bringing the
Showing teeth. I don't remember what year it was, quite a few years back. And somehow we just took to each other like, you know, as if we've known each other for many, many years. And in the interim, I think that we discovered that our parents had certain roots that we sort of associated with. And perhaps maybe this is what got us together. We became very good friends, and we've been friends ever since. And as a matter of fact, we went to university together, Yet and I, and she used to pick me up and shut me up before below zero. But what did we talk about all those years?
How old were you when you went to university? I mean, let's get the facts on the table.
11.
But you know what was interesting though at that time? Our children were growing out, they were just entering university, and we were keeping tab as you know, they're going to graduate, and we were sharing all these things together, and marriages, Shelley's wedding, and then our son Monty, who got married in Toronto. So I called Yet and I says, you know, we're not having too many out-of-town guests, but you know, she gives me a phone call, she says, what do you mean out-of-town guests? I'm coming! And it was the nicest thing that ever happened is that we do share, and here we are this evening, Norman and I, sharing your 40th anniversary. So way back, maybe thanks to the parent school, here we are together tonight.
Very good. Well, it's my turn, I guess. I don't know where to start. Yet and Jack and I go back many, many years.
How many, Eddie?
Oh, about 45.
How about 55?
55.
Over 50 for sure.
That's
Over
a
50.
long time.
Over 50.
So I probably go back, I probably go back farther than anybody here. Say so.
How old were you when you lived on Dufferin?
I was, well, I was 13 years old.
So that's already 50.
But I didn't know you, but I
I used to go to your house on Dufferin.
Did you?
Absolutely.
Well, that really means we go back a long time. As a matter of fact, Jack and Meyer Silverstein and I were very close friends in those days. And neither of us came from very affluent families. I remember one time we were short of funds, so Meyer said to us, he said, you know, we have something in our basement I'd like you fellas to look at. So we went to Meyer's basement and he showed us an Alpha Cannon coat that his uncle left there for storage.
Oh, right.
Remember that? Anyway,
This is funny.
we take this coat and we end up at one of my uncle's pawn shops on Main Street. And this coat, I'm sure in those days it was 1938 or 37. And a coat like that probably was worth about $8. But we got enough to pay for
$2 we got it.
We got $2 and that paid for our movie that afternoon at the Starland.
We sold the coat for $2.
We sold the coat for $2.
And it was in storage?
Meyer still brings it up to me and he says, I can't believe we sold my uncle's coat. Years ago. So then, of course, we were friends in the C4A, and
Eddie, were you in Newsy on the train with me?
I was in Newsy, Meyer was in Newsy on the train with you.
Yeah.
I took my own route. I went up to Edmonton. I was in Newsy up to Edmonton.
But when Meyer and I used to go to Rams's, and we'd get a room in the YMCA.
You worked for Steinberg, right?
For Stein, yeah,
Steinberg.
And yeah, and we used to take this room and we take a bunch of people and we had them crawl in through the windows. We paid $1 a night and then we charged them to stay with us. And once the manager caught up with what we were doing, so we heard it coming, so we fell the furniture and we piled it up against the door. And we escaped through the window.
Did you also make up your own sandwiches and hot dogs?
Oh yeah, we used to make our own sandwiches.
Instead of selling Steinberg.
Right, and then Steinberg used to get on the train to try to catch us, but we knew when he was coming. So we used to hide all our own stuff and bring his up.
Anyway, I went into the army when I was 18 years old, if you remember.
Yeah, right.
And you went on to university, and I think it took 2 years of it.
Yeah.
And for a few years, I guess we weren't close, but I kept in touch with your dad. I used to come around to the plant.
Just this minute,
have to switch it on, I think.
Little switch there.
Remember, I used to stay in touch with you through your dad by coming to the plant all the time. And where you moved several times from your house, or in your double garage, you moved to Isabel and then
Notre Dame.
Sargent there.
First Notre Dame.
Notre Dame and then over to
So
Sargent.
the one on Isabel, they found rats in the basement.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they condemned it.
Uh,
The one on Notre Dame, the first one, collapsed on us.
oh, yeah.
And then we built the building at 949 Notre Dame.
Right.
And then we built the one on Sargent. And we started off in the garage behind our house.
But I remember coming to the plant several times, and I had a couple of dollars in my pocket in those days because you didn't. So I was.
Because you were working at Newsy.
I was working at Newsy.
No, you were working for the.
Kodak.
No, for in the movie
I
business.
worked for Columbia Pictures.
Now you were getting about 3 times the wage that I was because my dad didn't pay me very much.
So your dad and I used to buy and sell the odd lot here and there.
Yeah.
We make a couple of dollars peanut. And one day, I think I came up with these 2 lots on Mayfair.
Right.
And I said, Jack, I'd like to go to a parking lot. And that's when you said, I want to be in. And that's when we formed this company called Biltmore Enterprise, I remember. And we were looking around for a foreman at that time, and there was a chap, I guess you remember his name was Harry Delinsky.
Right.
Harry Delinsky came along, and he was supposed to be the foreman on the job, but we couldn't raise the mortgage financing, if you remember at that time. So you put Harry into the plant, and he became one of your top inventors, and you wouldn't give him back to me.
Right.
And you said, I can't have him, but you said, there's a young fellow who is the foreman on this building here on Century and Sargent. I said, what's his name? He said, Bob Horta. It turned out to be Bob Horta.
Right.
So we made a deal with Bob. He was the foreman on our apartment, on our first apartment on Mayfair, and we paid him $2,000.
Eddie, tell them about the office we built for you in 11th Simon.
No, I remember that.
Under the stairs.
Underneath the staircase, yes, that's right. I told Jack I needed an office, so he said, oh yeah, there's plenty of room here underneath the stairwell. It was a metal stairwell, and at the top of the stairwell was a coffee shop. And at 10 o'clock every morning, you hear the stampede of men, sounded like lightning. And these men were running up the stairs to the coffee shop.
I remember that.
It was about 4 feet wide.
Yeah.
So Bob, I had my desk at the furthest end of it. And Bob had his drafting table on hinges because every time I had to leave, he had to drop his table to go out. But anyway, that's just the beginning of many years of business relationship with you, Jack. And in addition, we were always friends too for all those years. And I guess we did part for a while. You went your way and I went mine. And nothing but good things happened to you, and I'm happy for you for that. And, I did pretty good myself. I built a few buildings here and there. And we joined up forces again a couple of years ago on the Thornton Village Mall. It's been a great relationship.
Eddie and Bob worked with me to build the courts of St. James in
I have to
1968.
tell you that story.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bob and I started to build these warehouses for Jack. We built the one on Sargent Avenue. The first and only warehouse, I think, in Winnipeg that had industrial windows at the top. And then we built a few buildings on St. James Street. And then you came up and told me one day you were going to build this 750 apartment complex on St. James Street. And I said, on Port Avenue. And I said, well, Jack, I'm going to be your contractor. He said, are you crazy? He said, you and Bob never built anything bigger than a swimming pool at the university. So I said, Jack, all I want is 20 minutes with Haynes and Trustler. Is that a name? Is that a name? And Jack was very reluctant to let us even get involved with that. But anyway, he agreed, and we picked up Haynes and Trustler at Jack's office one day. We took them over to the University of Manitoba, and we took them through all these little tunnels underneath the swimming pool. and they're really impressed. It was quite a dirty little job, and they're really impressed with Bob and I. And of course, with Bob's help, we ended up being the general contractors on that immense project for two guys who didn't know anything.
How about Greek? What about me?
You're right. That's right. But we all tried very hard. We persevered and built that monastery.
And it's one of the finest conferences in Canada right now.
That's right.
I met somebody at the beach, our neighbor, that lived there, and they're so happy.
Really?
And they said they brought in some of their friends from the United States. This is just a few days ago.
Right.
In fact, this just happened yesterday.
Sure.
With that quality. It's yesterday.
Well, even in those days, there was somebody that came up from New York, and they said that that complex was 10 years ahead of Winnipeg's time. And, well, I guess Bergen came along 30 years later and built something like that, but nothing in those days. Not of that quality, no. But anyway,
Yeah, so here's a couple of young guys. I think I got that property in 1965. So what's that?
25 years ago.
25 years ago? So I was 38 years old. And I'd never built anything at that time except some one-story buildings. And had the nerve to take on the Courts of St. James. And he had the nerve to build it.
That's right.
You got the rock.
But that's where you start to show some of your business genius, Jack. And I remember one time, there was a big discussion about the ramp going down into the parkade. And you were very upset with it. You felt that it was too tight for cars to go down this ramp properly. So you took the drawings home with you one night, and you redid it yourself as you usually do with your scribbling on your tracing paper. And came back the next morning, and you explained to the engineers how you wanted it done, and they were amazed that Jack redesigned the ramp. And it worked beautifully.
I remember that.
But anyway, I don't want to take any more time in case somebody else wants to say anything, but I just want to say a little thing, something about Yetta too. We go back a long ways too. I'm sure everybody here feels like I do, that you're always such a wonderful, generous person. Thinking of everybody. And it's always a birthday card or something. Yet we all love you. Happy anniversary to both of you. Very good, Eddie. Get too emotional.
That's all right. I know.
I'm getting tired of this. Okay?
This is the story about Shirley Neeson and myself. We go back a long, long time. And this is one of the first stories that I remember, that I was going to go for one of my first jobs. I think I was 16 or 17 years old. She was 16 years old. And I had this summer job, and it was an office job. And I didn't have anything to wear. And I went to my dear friend Shirley, and I said, Shirley, you've got such a terrific wardrobe. She had one blue suit, a powder blue suit, and it had no collar. It was very stylish, and I loved that blue suit. I said, Shirley, can I borrow your blue suit to go for my job, to get my job? And for the interview. Well, she loaned it to me, and I did get the job. That started. No, this is a secretarial job for Kirshner, who's a manufacturer's agent. Anyway, another story is, during the summer holidays, we work for a manufacturer's agent making baby bottle warmers. At the bottom of the baby bottle warmer, you have to put together a couple of wires. Well, Shirley and I, and Claire, were you there? Yeah. And we worked together to put it together. That was our job. And I remember my mother used used to make Claire and I egg salad sandwiches every day. After a while, we got awfully tired of egg salad sandwiches. And Shirley's mother always gave her salmon sandwiches. And she got tired of salmon sandwiches. So what we did is we switched.
That's fantastic.
And that's one story that I remember about Shirley. But we had a lot of good times together with Clarice Gord, Clarice Diller, and Libby Wasserman. And I remember Shirley used to call for me to go to school. And at that time, I was very skinny. And my mother would not let me go to school before I ate my porridge and a loose egg. Uncooked egg. Uncooked egg. A raw egg. And believe me, Shirley waited at the door until I finished my porridge and my raw egg every morning.
That's
Good memories. Memories.
I remember you used to make a shizzle of it. It was like a shizzle of it.
It was great. We had good memories. Yeah, that's my story.
Yetta, fabulous. Listen, Shirley wants the blue dress back.
She's so
Oh, a volunteer.
Just a minute, I have to tell you a story that has to do with the Courts of St. James and Yetta's father. We were married already about 15 years, and I walked in to her father's place with the ID of the Courts of St. James. He says, das ist Maschine, da geht's um den 25 Dollar im Monat.
He was right.
He said, are you crazy? Who's going to pay $125 a month rent for apartments?
It's very funny.
The rents were $125 when we built it.
Herschel, you have a story.
He's finished.
We have a lot in common, but yet I have one particular thing in common. First of all, I guess it's quite obvious, my mother used to take a large platter, and whatever she served me, she would fill it up until it became a pyramid, and the things would slide down. When they were already sliding down onto the table, that's when she handed it to me. Mashed potatoes, or granicus, or prep pie, or anything like that. But she also fed me raw eggs.
Yetta just reminded me of a story. She said she was skinny. She's still mad at me what happened 50 years ago. Yetta was about 12 years old and I was about 15. And I had a bunch of fellas over to the house. And Yetta was like a real strong looking little thing, you know, and I didn't want her to be there.
He was ashamed of me.
No, I'm not ashamed. If I'd have known how beautiful you turned out today, Anyway, at the time, she was a strong little thing, and I had all these 15-year-old guys coming over, so I kind of didn't let her come into the room because, you know, I sort of tried to slap her up, hide her. But anyway, as I said, as she turned out such a beautiful girl, we're all proud of her, and we wish her very best with Jack. What did I say? I don't remember.
Yetta, you know my friend is coming down. I want you to go into the house. I said, what do you mean you want me to go into the house?
That's not
He
true.
says, and you know what? To this day I remember that, but I forgive him. He's a good brother. He's the best.
I got a story of between everybody's stories. This is about the time when my sister was necking on the sofa with Dave Yamatsky.
Very funny.
Put them in front.
And he was in the Navy, and I was hiding behind the sofa. And she spotted me. She picked up a book, she threw it at me, she hit me right over the eye, and I still got a scar.
That's very funny. funny. Very funny. Who's next? Neeson. Mr. Neeson, come on. Take a half hour, right?
No, I contributed to that one. That was my.
Lawrence.
No, but Lawrence. Oh, is that adorable?
Went by. I have to go to 1938 when Jack started the Courts of St. James. We got a big piece of land on the corner. Then we had to go and see if we could buy some more houses because he decided it was going to be that big. At that particular time, he suffered a little illness. This was just trying to go back a little bit. And I had the fish company at the time. And it was a thrill at that time to pick him up at his house because he couldn't walk and drive him around to see what was happening in the Courts of St. James. Going on from there, I let Eddie come up here. He followed me. If I built on Mayfair, he built on Mayfair. So Jack, it's been a wonderful 40 years. Good to have friends with you, like you. On behalf of my wife and my whole family, I wish you the best.
Thank you.
I'll just, first of all, that's about right. The way things are going, I'll be doing good if that.
He doesn't announce that he's not going to be married for 10 more years. You got that?
He'll be an old grandfather.
Let's look at, get married soon.
Well, it's good that everyone's going to be involved in this talk because I'll probably need some help. Anyway, my business career goes back to the Courts of St. James as well. And I remember, I think I was 6 years old. Was it 6 years old? When did you build the courts? 67?
68, I think.
65.
65, yeah. So I was 6 years old, and every Saturday my dad would take me out to the courts to see the hole in the ground, and I would run around in the tractors. And I guess at that time, I always knew what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. I wanted to be just like my dad.
The skinnier version.
Okay.
No, that's that goes. Now, it's been 7 years that I've started to work with my father. And each year I think it's getting better. And I can't think of a better teacher, someone who can motivate me, can inspire me as much as my father can. And I really enjoy what I do. And more than anything, I like going into the office and knowing that my father's there every day and I could go and talk with him about anything.
Who gets there first?
He gets there. Father gets there first. And the problem with that is...
Stays last.
It stays last.
Well, I stay last.
Just recently.
Yeah, things have changed. No interruptions are okay. So I think I have to change my parking stall because my parking stall is right next to my dad's. So each time I come in the morning, it's like 5 after 9. I go, damn it, my dad's car is there again. He beat me again. Anyway, it's really a pleasure to have developed the friendship that I have with my father. And I'm so proud of his accomplishments. And I'm really trying to follow into your footsteps. Okay.
You mean you want to gain some weight?
Now, what could I say about my mother?
Lies.
Yeah, you're right. Really, there's lots I'd like to say. I can't think of anybody who's influenced me more than my mother. And the influence she had on my life, and I think both Shelley and Diane's life, is her sincerity and her thoughtfulness to others. I don't think there's a nicer person in the world than my mom. Well, it's quite silent in this room.
You know what the problem is, Keith? You know how I became an experienced public speaker? It's when I was vice president of the parent school. And I had to make speeches. Every once in a while, they'd get up, they'd yell, let Edish, no, no. So leave that to Rayburn, to Victor, and all those guys. And I was nervous as hell when I started speaking. And I was vice president, and I was president of the school. And for 8 years, I learned to speak at the school. And that's what started me off. Well, your problem is you were never president of the parent school.
I'd like to nominate him. Don't let him. He's doing great. Keep it up.
I guess making an emotional speech is very hard.
No, I don't feel so bad.
Yeah. I'm not nervous, I'm just a little choked up. Anyway, Diane has spent a long time preparing the next session. And I think it's time that we all go to the other room and see what we have in store now. I think it'll be a very nice surprise.
Wait, I want Mike.
Mike, please. Not Mike, Keith. Microphone.
Microphone, Mike couldn't cut. Mike's in Vancouver making imperial dinners.
I don't think I've ever made a speech in all my life.
You also weren't president.
Right?
The mojo for right.
Since I can't make a speech, I thought I wrote a few things down and I'd like to read it if you don't mind. Now, I wrote this in 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Usually it's very difficult for me to write speeches, but I would say that this came very easy. Jack, it's been a wonderful 40 years. It's not been dull. It's been very exciting, as a matter of fact. Right. You are a gentle and considerate person, and I'm so proud all the time. You see, people
Not everybody
don't
agree with that.
No, they don't, but I live with you and I know better. I'm so proud of all your accomplishments, and I love you dearly. We've been blessed with wonderful, devoted children. What can I say about darling Brentilla? He's a joy. God willing, we'll have another grandchild in October, a healthy baby, Shelley. We are thinking pink. Let's get that straight. We're thinking pink.
What's that mean?
It's a little dress. Very few are lucky to have such a close-knit family as we have with our sisters and brothers. What would they do if I didn't call them and bug them from time to time? Right? Right. Armaka Tennisted is a wonderful and giving person. That's our Ida. Now, people have many friends, but none as special as our old friends from way back. Let us all be well and to continue our friendship. Thank you all for being here and making this an evening to remember. My first speech I've ever made.
I think that from now on, you'll be taking that department over.
Oh, God,
I just wanted to just kind of add a few words to the words that Keith started with. Keith has done a fabulous job with me in the company. I remember when he started, he put me on notice. He said, "Dad, I'm not going to work as hard as you. I still have to consider going on with girls and sports and music. So don't expect me to work like you do." I said, "That's fine, Keith. It's no problem." You just heard him tell you that he stays there later than I do, didn't you? Well, that's exactly what is happening. Diane has been working with me for many, many years in all kinds of areas. Lakeview Realty, the Hamilton Sheraton Hotel, the movie bar. Diane is a very, very good business person. Surprisingly so. Shelley is, she doesn't want to work with me or for me. She's her own person. She's a social worker. She has a bachelor's degree. She's getting a master's degree in social work. She's one of the top students in North America right now in the master's program. The only reason that she had to stop is that she's pregnant. And she'll be starting again as soon as when the baby is born, and she'll have a master's degree. She's been with the Jewish Family Service for